URC round number 4, folks. Something of an interesting round. It was a pretty good one for the away sides. Not so good for the Welsh or for the Italians. And the big powerhouse sides of Leinster and the Sharks both got rolled at home. But we'll go through the week that was pretty quick, wrap up the games, have a look at the table and the upcoming fixtures as we head towards the break for internationals in November. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how all the teams are looking. Friday, we started with 3 games played at the same time, which is awkward if you're a fan to pick a game to watch, but I guess if you only support your own team, it doesn't matter. Of the 3 games that were played at the same time on the Friday, the Edinburgh Benetton, CONvBUL and Dragons Cardiff matches, I picked Connacht and the Bulls to watch, and I think I was justified in that selection. You never know how it's going to turn out, but that turned out to be a 1-point thriller. Less so Edinburgh and Benetton, which was a pretty big old hiding for Edinburgh over Benetton, 43-0. I've only caught bits and pieces of this one. As I said, I was watching the other game broadcast at the same time, and 43-0 isn't really the kind of game that I feel the need to go back and dissect with a fine-tooth comb. Duhan van der Merwe gets 1, Dylan Richardson gets 2. Darcy Graham seems to have been running riot. He got 2 tries. He finished with 100 metres, beat 6 defenders. Love wee Darcy doing his thing. Piers O'Connor and Magnus Bradbury, couple of second-half tries from them as well. Benetton. I mean, both these sides, Edinburgh and Benetton, are inconsistent at the best of times, and I guess when one shows up and the other one doesn't, it ends in the score like 43-0. So credit to Edinburgh, they're bouncing back off a loss last week, had 64% possession, they had clean breaks of 5-1, Benetton had a couple of yellow cards, so yeah, pretty emphatically one-sided there. Connacht and the Bulls, like I said, I did watch in full. We did a full match review on that one if you want to hear about it in more detail, but the biggest talking point of this one is probably the ball grab. I'm not talking about the rugby ball. If you missed it, there was an accusation by Josh Murphy that Jan-Hendrik Wessels grabbed him where you don't want to be grabbed, but that was not picked up on camera, so it still just remains an accusation, and Murphy's reaction saw him get 20-minute red carded. So that was a bit of a controversial one. Interestingly, the Bulls, despite their away win, only scored the 3 tries, whereas Connacht scored 4. And they had a chance to win it with 2 conversion shots at the death. They had the first one, but there was an early charge from the Bulls. So the Connacht guys, it's from the sideline, to be fair, and it's bloody Galway, but second chance and likewise missed. So it's a 1-point game. Connacht get 2 points out of it for the 4 tries and for the losing bonus point, but they certainly could have won that one. And as I said, the Bulls, I mean, they had their moments as well. Sebastian de Klerk still continues to run riot, even though he didn't get himself on the scoreboard for this one. But yeah, Bulls a win on the road in Ireland is certainly always a pretty welcome one. Dragons and Cardiff, it's the only win for a Welsh side this week, with Cardiff winning at 24 points to 17. The Dragons are still winless thus far this season, but they do get themselves a late losing bonus point when Carter went over in the 72nd minute. Both sides opened the scoring with more tries. Coughlin got one for the Dragons. Mann got one in like 2 minutes for Cardiff. And to be fair, all of Cardiff's tries were kind of close range ones. Valatel from close range, Dan Thomas from close range, and Southworth from close range for the bonus point. So maybe just that physical edge from the Cardiff forwards. The stats, honestly, seemed very even in terms of the run meters and the possession and defenders beating, all that kind of stuff. But if you've got forwards who can bully the opposition pack around a wee bit and get some go-forward ball, you will score 4 tries to 2. It was 17-7 at halftime, so the halftime difference is not all that different from the full-time difference for this one. So yeah, no Tom Bowen score for this week for Cardiff because he'd been on a couple of hot weeks. It is all about the forwards this week from Cardiff, but they are certainly the side flying the flag for the Welsh ones. We do put it into context by saying it was a win, as I said, over the winless Dragons. Then we move on to the Saturday games. Another winless side. They're down to South Africa. The Scarlets, they took on the Lions in Joburg. It's 29 points to 18, so it is a win for the Lions. Kieran Horn got the first one after Pretorius had gone very, very close, but couldn't quite get himself over the line. So Kieran Horn got the first one, and they took until like the 74th minute, the Lions, to get the bonus point with Mornay Brandon getting 2. One from a really nice line-out move and one from a maul. So they kind of get the desired result when you're playing, as I said, the winless Scarlets at home. But it took some going. It was, what, like 5-3 at halftime? So maybe not the most inspiring first half, but certainly the points did come in the second. The Scarlets had a penalty try and one through Joe Roberts on the 77th minute, so kind of a late consolation for them. I guess one good thing for the Lions is they got those last couple of tries despite the fact that they had a yellow card. So, yeah, that is pretty good. I mean, with 10 minutes to go, it was only a 3-point game. It was 16-13. So the Lions get the win, get the bonus point. They had more possession, more territory, double the run meters. They had 9 clean breaks to 3. If anything, probably could have had the job done a bit earlier, but as I said, a bonus point win is a bonus point win. Then there's the Sharks and Ulster. And I get the feeling Sharks fans are probably disappointed but not surprised at this star-studded side still underperforming. And you have to give a heck of a lot of credit to Ulster. Ulster are undefeated. Ulster have had a bloody good turnaround from last year. Admittedly, they're a game behind because they've had one of their games postponed due to the weather a couple of weeks ago, but Ulster are playing some good rugby. And the Sharks, you got a heck of a lot of Springboks in that team, but they just look clunky. Missed tackles. Masuku missing kicks at goal. The discipline didn't help. They had a yellow card to Vincent Koch and a red card to Makazola Mapupi, both for tackling Michael Lowry and dumping him. He's not the biggest dude. He got slammed twice into the turf, kind of tip tackles, both of them, but Mapimpi's one was ruled to be worthy of a red. Koch's one was a yellow. But I don't think you can argue that the cards are the difference in this one, can you? I mean, the Sharks scrum still looks good. There is still that, but my goodness. Like, on paper, that's a team that should be competing at a very high level, but they continue to be clunky. Is it the coach? Plumtree is the guy that gets the finger pointed at him a lot. But you get the feeling that it might run a wee bit deeper than that. I don't know. But something is not right. I mean, Lowry got the first one for Ulster, and that was a cracking try. I mean, there was some of these key guys, Stockdale, Doak, Lowry finishing off, great support lines. It was a thing, a beauty try. You got to love to see. That's why I don't want to just focus on negativity for the Sharks, because there's some bloody nice play from Ulster here as well. Vincent Koch managed to find some space around the Sharks' defence. That would have been I guess a bittersweet one for him being back in South Africa. But yeah, gets his team a try. I think that was not long after the Sharks had missed a shot at goal as well. So kind of a bit of a point swing, that one. Khaleesi did get one from a maul, which was given to them on the basis of their scrum, like the possession and territory. The opportunity came from a scrum one penalty, but you can't rely on just that. The Mapimpi try, 49 minutes, was very nice. Dink over the top after a big maul. So the forwards getting themselves some go forward was also very good. Half time, it was still 20 points to 5 though. Mapimpi's try came in the second. Penalty try to the Sharks in the second half. Estes got a nice one to show some power, but Ulster, I mean, Tom Stewart got one, finish a nice counter-attacking move on turnover ball. Callum Reid got the bonus point try on 66 minutes. I mean, yeah, Ulster were just good value for their win. They had 4 clean breaks to 2. They had 7 turnovers 1-1. The Sharks tackled at 79%, and you're not going to win many games when you do that. Look at Munster's performance later in the day, where you see what a big defensive shift can give you. Yeah, the Sharks, as I said, they had cards, but when you miss your shots at goal, you miss your tackles, line out looks a bit iffy. Yeah, the cards are only kind of one thing at play. So, geez, something needs to change there. But cracking start for Ulster to their season after, as I said, a pretty disappointing season last year. The big match, which I regret not getting up. This one was on at 5:15 in the morning, my time here in NZ. And I stayed up a bit late last night and I thought, oh, nah. Munster have been on a good run, but like they were a bit scrappy last week against Edinburgh. They were away against Leinster. Leinster have got their big guns back after their early tour of South Africa. Majority of them, not all of them, obviously, but I thought there's only one way this one's going. And boy, was I wrong. I really, really should have got up to watch this one live. Thankfully, I managed to avoid the result. As I sat down and watched the whole thing, Croke Park, cracking crowd. I mean, it's really nice to see a massive crowd like that at a URC game. Like, we don't get crowds like that in Super Rugby, not for a regular season game. None of the other crowds are anything like that Croke Park crowd. That's just massive. It's Munster against Leinster, isn't it? That was, and it's like the jersey pullers up against the shushers, because the pre-match player photos where they go through the team, like half of the Leinster guys are just doing the pose like with their jersey pulled, and half of the Munster guys are shushing. Who are you cheering for, the jersey pullers or the shushers? Well, it's the shushers who get the job done. And as I said, this is, I mean, Jack Crowley gets man of the match. The Prendergast Crowley thing was much hyped, but this is a massive, massive Munster defensive shift. Tackle after tackle after tackle. Bloody turnovers won for days, and if you're Leinster, how much drop ball? That's uncharacteristic of Leinster in that regard. They were maybe looking a bit rattled after they couldn't break Munster down. Sometimes you might just need to opt for threes. They had enough penalties and whatnot to keep the scoreboard ticking over, but they got themselves deeper and deeper into that hole. They kept having to go for mauls and stuff, and it just wasn't working. Munster's defence was incredible. Leinster did punish early, though. Like, Munster conceded a few penalties early, and Kelleher got a nice maul try. So maybe that's the reward for going to the maul when it works. But barring a late consolation try, that's their only points for, like, the vast majority of the game. Maybe it came too easy too early with that 7-0 lead. Munster got the score back even pretty quickly with a 5-metre tap. In reply, it was Gleeson. That was pretty nice. 7 points apiece. And then there's a beaut from Munster on 23 minutes. It's a line-out move. Crowley with the dink over for Farrell. It is a one-handed take. That's sweet. With the Leinster defence rushing up, Crowley was finding space. Like, for what limited ball they had, he was either finding space over the Leinster defence or in the Leinster backfield very nicely. He gets man of the match. As I said, this is the kind of match where I personally probably would have gone for a big defensive shift for my man of the match, but I guess you do have to give a guy some credit, because 10s look better when their pack is going forward, dominating the scrum, dominating the possession, getting go for ball. His guys will just tackle him for days, so maybe you do need to give him the credit for being able to pull the strings with the limited opportunities he had. But that was a beaut. And then Ethan Coughlin with the intercept. He's got some wheels, that boy. 35 minutes. Gibson Park's pass, he picks it off, and he's able to, he wasn't close to getting caught, was he? So 21 points to 7. And before halftime, Munster's defence had to hold after, like, Edogbo had been pinged for a kind of deliberate knock on. Leinster had gone for the maul. Their defence held that one. They had a huge Leinster scrum, which, they had to kind of get the ball. They managed to get the ball out the back of the thing, but it was Leinster on the defensive scrum. Once they had the feed, somehow they managed to go into the sheds without conceding any more points. So it was 21 points to 7 at halftime. The injury toll was high, you feel like, in the first half, because Leinster lost Paddy McCarthy and Jordan Lama. Munster lost Andrew Smith and Brian Gleeson all in the first half. I think Prendergast had to have an HIA, but he passed it. Byrne had to have an HIA later. There was a bunch of knocks and injuries and whatnot on this one. The toll was pretty high. Second half, Coombs, another big defensive shift from Munster to hold up Josh van der Fleer. That was massive. And then Coughlin almost had another intercept, but he couldn't quite hang on to that one. It was two-handed, though, so he didn't get pinged for kind of deliberate knock-on. So many defensive phases from Munster. Leinster just knocking on the door, couldn't break it down, and Byrne wins a turnover. That was amazing. Leinster knocking the ball on, forward passes. As I said, Crowley finding space when the Munster did have the ball. And Munster were very close to a bonus point, I thought, when they were just short. It was Farrell again, wasn't it? But then Frawley got pinged for kind of coming in at the side of the tackle, which is a thing that I don't feel like it's called very often in that position when the guy's kind of reaching out for the line, but I guess it's one that's technically correct for all he needs to come round. But he comes in at the side and he's pinged with a penalty try for it. So bonus point for Munster there. There was handbags. Crowley got man of the match, like I mentioned. There was a Coombs yellow card towards the death for a bit of cynical play, which was picked up pretty smartly by the TMO. And Penny did get the consolation try for Leinster, but 31-14. Goodness me, the stats. 221 tackles to 80. That is insane. O'Donoghue had 20. Coombs had 20. Wycherley had 20. Even bloody Crowley had 17 defensive shift. Byrne had 4 turnovers, 1. Munster had 10 in the game. Byrne gets 4 of them. Incredible stuff. I regret not watching it live. Honestly, I didn't see Munster putting on that kind of shift. That was pretty impressive stuff. Ospreys in Glasgow, I did watch, which was on a bit later in the day. I did a full match review for that one. Ultimately, Ospreys needed more Morgans because Ruben Morgan-Williams and Luke Morgan got 2 of their tries, which were their only 2. They didn't have Jack Morgan. That would have surely guaranteed them a 3rd try. It still wouldn't have been enough. Dobie got a couple. He gets man of the match for Glasgow. Stain got 1. Matthews got 1 from a more. Ferry and Duncan both got him. They didn't have the stats live during the game because they were busted, but as I suspected, the possession and territory, man, Glasgow had 60% possession, 61% territory. It was pretty emphatic. Dobie had 4 defenders beaten, so as I said, in the rain, Glasgow just looked a better team, especially in the second half. First half was actually relatively close, but as I said, talk more about it there. The last one, Stormers and Zebra, I've only just caught up on the highlights of that one. 31 points to 13. Zebra get the 1 try, but it's an intercept on a Galant pass. Stormers, of all the South African teams, are maybe looking the best of the bunch right now. De Villiers got 1 from a maul. Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu got 2. Set up 1 for Galant later on. Ruan now got 1 very late on. Bonus point win for them away from home. As to be expected over Zebra, although Zebra are improved. Like Zebra are in the top 8, believe it or not, but yeah, I think the Stormers with the team that they've got, they're actually looking all right. They're a team with a bunch of big names, but they're a team at the top of the URC, which is not something you can say from every team with a bunch of big names. How is the table looking? Your top 4 right now is the Stormers, Munster, Glasgow, and Cardiff. So South Africa, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, which is a bit of an interesting mix. Ulster's there in 5th, remembering they have played 1 game fewer than most of the other teams because they've had 1 postponed, and them, Munster and the Stormers are the only 3 undefeated teams thus far. The Bulls, Benetton and Zebra round out the top 8. Then there's Edinburgh and Connacht, who remember are also a game behind everybody else. The Lions, Leinster in 12th after 4 rounds, which not many people would have seen coming. The Ospreys, Sharks, Dragons and Scarlets. The Sharks, Dragons and Scarlets all winless thus far. The Sharks are surely the most underperforming of all the teams. But we'll see how they can pick things up next week. Glasgow against the Bulls should be a bit of a cracker. Lions against Ulster. Ulster are, as I said, undefeated thus far. The Sharks against the Scarlets. That's 2 teams without a win. So unless they draw, someone's going to get their first win. Dragons against the Ospreys, all Welsh affair. Benetton Stormers. Benetton back home should be interesting, but the Stormers, as I said, are undefeated on top of the log. Leinster against Zebra. I get the feeling after this loss, Zebra better be careful because often Leinster hand out a whooping after that, but we'll see. Cardiff, Edinburgh, and then Munster against Connacht. It's been a pretty interesting round. As I said, a bit of controversy, bit of refereeing stuff under the spotlight. As I said, it's an unusual one to see. Away win, away win, away win, away win, away win, away win. Doesn't usually happen in the URC, but yeah, happy days for it. You guys let us know your thoughts on the round. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We'll be starting the power rankings up this week. 4 rounds in, I think we need to start the power rankings, so look forward to them in the next couple of days, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.